not one, but two Moe Dunford movies in the space of like a week. Yeah, we had the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie dropped on Netflix. You will have seen my thoughts on that down below. And now, hopefully today, depending on when you watch this, Friday the 4th of March, it hits Netflix. The movie is called Nightride, and I can't wait to talk about it. So, yeah. Hello everybody and welcome back to Nerdly Out Loud, the official channel of nerdly.co.uk, your favourite British home for all of your news, reviews and exclusive interviews. We like to cover everything from the big budget to the low budget to the no budget, with a special keen interest on the lower end of the scale. It's where I like to live, it's where my heart lies, and I will continue to champion these movies till my dying day. That's pretty morbid. I had the privilege a little while back of being sent this movie and watched it. I genuinely can't wait for people to see this, especially after seeing Texas Chainsaw Massacre, where I feel Moe's strengths and what he's good at weren't really played into all that well. I feel like his character was a little bit underutilized. I kind of feel like a lot of his stuff maybe ended up on the floor. But what I want to do first is ask all of you wonderful, wonderful people to do what I always ask you to do, and that is to hit that like, hit that subscribe, and ding that notification bell. It will let you know whenever I drop an episode, whether it's one of my interviews or one of my reviews. The interviews recently, I spoke to Ross McCall. I wholeheartedly loved that interview, and it's been one of my favorites since I started doing all this. You know, he had a lot of good things to say about the industry and a lot of good things about his career so far. But again, please do check out everything as well. Go over to the website nerdly.co.uk and check out all the awesome reviews on there. We've been plugging a lot of Romford movies. Romford Horror Festival was literally last weekend. Anyway, totally tangent right there, just plugging a load of things. But we are actually here to talk about the new movie from Stephen Fingleton and Ben Conway. Director Stephen Fingleton and writer Ben Conway. A movie called Nightride that is a one-shot movie, and you know what? Let's just get into it.
Once we do this, you'll be out.
I'll be out.
We'll both be out.
I'm gonna be there, 11:15, 50 keys.
A minute late, the deal is off.
Just till Dutcha.
What does it mean?
You're just picking up a bag, in and out.
Time is luck. Talk to me.
I've got a tail on me. It's all gone wrong. Now the buyer's pulled out. You know what's going to happen if I don't get that money.
We can turn this around and find another buyer.
Call Graham, call Lefty, call Magic Shop. I got a lot of product I need to shift it on. I need to shift it on now.
I know that you're going to do the job for the people you love.
Tell him to call me direct. I'm ready to go here.
Okay.
It's not personal. It's just business.
You can trust me?
I hope so, because I'm running out of time. Two ways this game ends, on your terms or their terms.
How long you got?
Midnight.
That's not enough time.
I'll make time.
No. Just a little more time.
Let's run out.
Drive, go!
Clock is stopped.
It's my life on the line now. You understand? It's my life.
And as is always the way, I am going to stick to my normal routine, because until you all tell me you don't want me to do that, I am going to continue to do that. I am going to talk about the plot of this movie with as few spoilers as possible. And then I will go into the cast and the characters. It's a one-shot with one main character, so there's not a great deal to talk about on cast and characters. Or is there? We'll do that in a second. And then I will give you a little bit of what I did and what I didn't like. And then we will move on to my final thoughts. That is the Nerdly rating for this episode for the movie Nightride. It's not necessarily the rating of nerdly.co.uk. It is primarily just my rating. But let's be honest, you don't go to the website for all that lot. You go there for this kid. Let's get into the movie. Let's talk about Nightride. I have been dying I've been biting my tongue on this movie for a good 3 weeks now. Like, that's a long time to not be talking about a movie you really want to talk about. As I've already said a couple of times, this movie is a one-shot movie, as in it is all in one take. No fake cuts that I could see. Hopefully there isn't, because that's a premise that I'm starting to get on board with. Last Call was really good. One Shot, the Scott Adkins punchy kicky movie, was really good. And when you do it like this, when you do it like Nightride, it truly, truly works for me. I really wish that they did this with the Tom Hardy movie Lot. So it is a one-shot movie told in real time where we meet Budge. Budge is sort of doing one of these one last jobs. It's always one last job, it really truly is. He's got one last job to do and then he is out. He's starting a custom car business and he's going into business with a very good friend of his. But to do so, he needs to get his cut of the money. In order to do this, he's set up a couple of deals in this night. And he has to make sure that all the wheels are spinning, all the cogs are working, and everything goes perfectly. He needs to get to the money man. Once he's been to the money man, he needs to go to the drug deal. Once he's done the drug deal, he needs to take the drugs to the place to sell the drugs to get the money. Then he needs to go and give the money to the money man to pay him back, because that's got to be done in like an hour, because Irish gangsters are really, really pissy about their money. And then he has got to take the money to the bank. But it's a movie, so it's not all gonna go right, is it now? And Budge is having quite a decent night when it first starts out. He's saying goodbye to his missus and he's like, on the other side of all this, we are going to be free of the crappy life and we're going to make something good for ourselves. Then he goes out, gets in the car, he's driving around, meets his friend, and then it pretty much starts to go to shit. It's Budge driving around on the phone, trying to make sure these things happen, trying to make sure that he can fix these things, the things that are going wrong that he literally has very little control over, if any control. He really doesn't have any control over any of these things. He just kind of has to listen as the world kind of burns around him. Needs to get through this night, and it's tension soaked and it's adrenaline filled, even though most of the action is happening on the other end of the phone in another part of the city. So there really is no point me diving any further into the plot, because I will end up giving away spoilers. I feel like I've given you the main basis of the movie. I mean, obviously stuff and things have to happen. It is a film after all. There is a story to tell. Ben Conway has written a script. We have to deal with that. So let's move into the cast and the characters, starting with the legend that is, the man that is. I've interviewed him before. I think this guy's great. You've seen him in Vikings. He was great in that. You've seen him in Knuckledust. He's awesome in that. He has just recently been in Netflix's Chainsaw Massacre. He's probably one of the better things in that movie. Just a shame what they did with his character. Moe's fantastic in this movie. He's got a script to work with. Ben Conway's script is brilliant. And there's a lot of dialogue in there. When you really think about it, he's still got to hit his marks. He's still got to be here at this time. He's still got to be there at this time. And he's still got to deliver all this. And there's some really nice movie kind of nods in there that, if you know, you know, just really well laced into the plot. Nothing too overt, nothing too like in your face, apart from there is like one scene where they outright talk about movies. You know, if you're a film fan, a cinephile, you're gonna get a lot of the references they're throwing at you. And I love that. I genuinely love that. But the back and forth on the phones was brilliant. They cast brilliantly the other side of the conversation, which we'll talk about in a second. But yeah, I just thought his performance, this is like a notch above again. I love seeing him in all these other projects that I've seen him in. There's usually other people around to sort of like elevate his performance at the same time as he elevates their performance. But in this role, he is pretty much sat by himself in a car with a camera locked onto him. Joanna Ribeiro plays the female supporting lead, if you will. She's not really in it all a great deal, but again, she is fantastic. And when there is a lot of urgency to the phone calls and there's things happening, she just really keeps you invested and gripped in those scenes. And obviously Moe's got very little there's nothing he can do. Like, he's just trapped in this moment, and he's just trying to make sure that people are getting through. And there is one character and one voice that bellows down the phone quite a few times, and it's obvious who this guy is from the second his voice comes on the line. Stephen Bloody Rea. If you've seen movies in the last 10 to 15 years, you know who this actor is. You know what this actor can do, and he's absolutely cracking. Class A dickbag. Love hearing him being threatening on the phone. Love hearing him just being threatening throughout the movie. There's like this force, because obviously there's things that are falling apart around Budge, and he's trying to solve the problems as he goes. Sometimes bringing his best friend into the fray who has nothing to do with this criminal life. You know, and you don't even get to see any of that stuff either. Like, he's being made to do some things he would never normally do, and you don't get to see it. It's like, it's mind-blowingly tense in your head. You're making up what's going on outside of this car, and like, that was my main thing. Like, I couldn't stop thinking about what was happening to these people in these situations, making up the other side of the story, meanwhile being completely engaged and enthralled in a performance that just has you thinking, how the fucking hell is he going to solve this? So yeah, big ups to Stephen Rea. He is brilliant in this movie. I rate Stephen Rea. I always have. There is one more character, and he is played by Jared Jordan. But I'll tell you what, I'm not really going to talk too much about that character because spoilers. So yeah, we're going to move on to what I didn't like. The main thing that I absolutely love about this movie is the script. The script is fantastic. You can do a one take and it can be clever and it can be fluid. But for me, if I'm going to be spending an hour and 90 minutes with one character sat in a car, you best be sure that the dialogue is on point and that the performer has a lot to work with. And Ben Conway has written this script that works on so many different levels. Like I say, you've got sort of like the movie references sitting in there, but he makes you engage with the things you can't see. And that for me is the real challenge of this film. It's the real challenge of most films, but especially with a film like this where you can't see what's going on. You only get to see the perspective of the one man who can't do anything to help. He's just driving around. So Ben Conway's script and what he's given the supporting actors and the supporting roles to work with in terms of, right, you need to say this and you need to convey this and this is how you're going to convey it. Absolutely spot on. And a lot of that also goes to director Stephen Fingleton, who for me, I need to see what else this guy comes out with. I need to see what Stephen Fingleton has going forward, because I think we have a little bit of a rare gem here. There are some directors that come along and they make a great movie coming out the gate. They make like this smash film that you just instantly fall in love with. And then 5-10 years down the line, they might have made another movie, but you probably didn't catch it. I think Stephen Fingleton's not going to be that director. I think he's going to come out with something else just as good as this. But as a piece to really push and propel him forward, and obviously Netflix have seen something in it because they've picked it up, I think this film is going to push him, and this is going to be a director we're going to be seeing going forward because he has mad vision. And when you think about movies like this, other movies like this, the camera will end up going into the car and sitting with the character. And of course, that's what you want because you need to be sat beside the guys. What Fingleton does is he sits the camera on the outside of the car looking through the windscreen, which at first I was like, we ain't going to stay here, are we? This isn't where we're going to be sat for the entire movie. We are going to be going in the car at some point, but it works. It's almost just as tense. There's almost even more tension and even more of a thriller sort of vibe to it because he's in the car and he can't do anything to help him, but as a viewer, I'm outside the car with this windscreen in front of me and I can't do anything to help him. I loved it. I thought that was fantastic. I love that choice, and it's great. In terms of things that I didn't like, I'm struggling. I'm really struggling because whenever I come up with something that I can have a go at or I can be nitpicky with, I think of like 4 other things that happened around that moment or around that scene that I truly loved. So I find it hard to really knock it down anything on that. Quickly before I move on to my final rating of this movie, and remember, it's just my rating, not the rating of nerdly.co.uk, although they will agree with me because I'll tell them to. I want to give a quick shout out to the score and the music of this movie, which was Phil Kiernan, who has really done something quite magical in some moments to this film. Like, when they need to really amp up the tension and really get you wondering, is it going to happen? Like, you don't really know where it's going to go. The score and the music over the top has a great deal to do with that. And I thought he did a cracking job. Like, that final scene, wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. My heart was in my throat. And that does also go to the cinematographer, David Bird, who, in the moments where he's not just sat on the front of the car, because I don't really know how they did that, but in those moments where he's not just sat on the front of the car, his camera movement is so slick and so tidy and so neat that when he's sort of rotating around or when he's coming in close, you've got the half shot of the poster scene when the guy is literally on this side of the screen and you've got this much empty space because they need the tension, because is someone coming? You don't know. I don't know. And they do that a couple of times, but when they do it, it's superb. And that's just another sign of all these guys firing on all cylinders. I'm just going to say it because you know what? I am gushing about this movie. Nightride is lightning in a bottle. I don't know if you could recreate this movie again. Obviously, you couldn't because it's a one take, but I don't know if you could get this again to the point where when you actually get to the end, because remember, he's driving this car for about an hour and a half. So when he actually ends up where he ends up, there's a lot of moving parts there. There's a lot of things that have to go right to get you there. So I am just going to go to my final rating because for me, it's pretty obvious. I'm going to drop a 5 on this. I'm dropping a 5 out of 5 on this movie. I have seen one takes that work brilliantly. I have seen one takes that just don't necessarily work for me. And then there's the ones in the middle where it's literally just a gimmick. Or sometimes you get a movie where they decide to do a one-take scene, Extraction, Haunting on Hill House. Don't get me wrong, I am not taking anything away from Haunting on Hill House. That episode 5 opener, wowzers, that is a hell of a scene. But this movie doesn't use it as a gimmick, and it gets everything right. The small choices that you need to make to get this right are made. There's literally a scene where Budge gets pulled over by the police. I don't know, I like to think that was part of the movie, but I don't know if it was. And that makes it even more just a little bit special because he's doing gangster shit. He's in his gangster mode, gets pulled over by the police. I would love to ask him. I will ask him, if that scene was meant to happen, because when he gets pulled over, I was genuinely like, oh shit, just got real. Huge props to Moe on this movie. There's a couple of scenes where dude pulled right on the heartstrings and pulls it out of the bag. There's one particular scene where it's made to sort of pull on the heartstrings a little bit, and he walks away from the camera and he's off in the distance sort of on the phone, and you know what they do? They leave the camera by the car. Oh man. I think this movie's going to hit Netflix and it's going to fly. And hopefully it's going to pick up some of that Texas Chainsaw traction. Moe's name is solid gold right now. People are talking about him. People want to see that movie. But truly, I hope some of that rubs off on Nightride and people just check this out off the back of that. Because what you'll find is you've got a rare gem here. A movie you maybe aren't expecting to be as good as this or as intense as this, and it is. So please, 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 it'll be on Netflix Friday, March the 4th. Check it out. I can't talk enough about this movie. Stephen Fingleton, Ben Conway, I think you've created something special here. Moe did brilliant work in this movie. Ribeiro did brilliant work in this movie. Stephen Rea on the phone, you're a world-class dickbag. Like, I just think you're awesome, and I want you to just keep being you, please. Nightride, check it out. I want everybody to check it out. 5 out of 5 for me. It was a no-brainer. Like, I was in from the start. My heart was in my throat. Even if it's just once, and even if you turn it off halfway through, if you do, you're an ass. But even if you do, give it a watch. I'm going to go. My name's been Kevin Halden. This is Nerdly Out Loud, the official channel of nerdly.co.uk, your favourite British home for review news, reviews, and exclusive interviews. And I'm going to go.